All right, aloha Tulsi Kratz, Bernie Kratz, and radical independents, free radicals, as I'm starting to call people who are not tethered to any political party. My name is Dave, and this is my rebranded channel. I've been doing a few less videos. I'm going to try to do more content, and I want to be a little bit more focused when I do the content and really hone in on some of the things that I think are more important in the long run in the scheme of things as I try to recalibrate and just focus again on what truly is at stake. I haven't changed my support for Tulsi Gabbard. In fact, she's still my number one candidate by a lot. I did do a video about Andrew Yang. I do recognize that Andrew Yang has a really bad foreign policy. So someone pointed that out to me on Twitter, and it was hard for me not to agree. What I was pointing out to everybody in the video is that this guy is running a very unique and interesting campaign, and it's a breath of fresh air because he's basically saying not left, not right, just forward, which I think is a great slogan. And I think if you want to recruit people into your movement, you can't just say, hey, I'm on this side over here, and make sure you're checking all the boxes with me, because if you're not, then I'm not going to tell you this directly, or I might, but we really don't want you over here. You're really not useful. I think that's something we have to get away from if we're going to actually overthrow this two-party duopoly and figure out a way to get issues talked about rather than just doing the tribalism. Jimmy Dore here. I love Jimmy Dore. He inspired me to start a YouTube channel, at least from the political stuff. And he's doing something here, though, which obviously Bernie Sanders is, being pooped on all the time. It's just what happens when Bernie runs for president. It happened when Donald Trump ran for president. Jill Stein supporters are typically looked down upon. Anybody who comes in from a different angle, who doesn't, that trajectory where they have to come in just as everybody says to fly in, and if you're a little off, you're coming in too steep, they're gonna, you might burn up when you hit the atmosphere, basically. But my point is they're going to point it out. They're going to say, you can't say this, you can't say that, and we're going to find a way to demean you and to disparage you. Jimmy Dore here in this clip is doing this, and I love Jimmy Dore, but then I'm going to make a few comments after we play the clip here.
But if you're smart and you follow stuff and you know the 411, you're going to go Elizabeth Warren. That's what politicals do. Well, men go for her. Men go for Bernie, but women go for her. Turns out that's not even true, but we're going to get to it. Here's what Ron Placone says. He says, by less educated, they mean people without master's degrees and higher. Among people who have bachelor's degrees, Warren and Bernie are pretty much the same. Bernie's actually slightly higher. This tweet is condescending and misleading on multiple levels.
So there you go. The whole goal of a lot of media in general, whether it's left media, right media, conservative talk radio, what do all day long? They just go after Ilhan Omar, or they talk about how crazy socialists are coming, and they're going to destroy the country, and the world's going to end. But their whole goal, basically, is not to really talk about the policies. Like to debunk Medicare for all, say, okay, rather than just disparage it and say it's socialism, talk about the cost of Medicare for all, but then maybe juxtapose it with how much money we're spending on U.S. military operations that are truly a waste of time. They are. They're not keeping us any safer. They're designed, it's basically welfare for military contractors. And nobody wants to report on that. Everybody wants to talk about how evil socialism is. And, if you propose that a few crumbs fall off the table for people that don't have health insurance or have deductibles and premiums that are ridiculous. If you do that, you're going to be met with all kinds of resistance, and people will go tribal on you. Now, I don't think Jimmy Dore is intentionally trying to be tribal with this clip here, but what this is, more or less, is, okay, corporate media is helping Elizabeth Warren. Well, as one of my 11-year-old friends used to say to me, well, no duh, okay? We know, and this is happening over and over again. Tulsi Gabbard with the smears, people are almost acting Hindu-phobic when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, a word many of us probably aren't even familiar with because it probably hasn't come up until now. With Tulsi Gabbard, she's an apologist for Assad. We know all of the smears, all of the mischaracterizations. We know it. And you know what we do with it? We continue to focus on it. We just talk about that. And by the way, I'm guilty of that. Building this channel, you have to think to yourself, okay, what videos are people actually going to watch? Well, they're not going to watch me talking about how great Medicare for All is. They're not even really that interested in finding out, Tulsi Gabbard's position on a certain topic. What they really want is, okay, how did my candidate get smacked around today? I mean, that's really what they want to know, and then they want somebody like a Jimmy Dore to go up there and defend. I don't know if that helps the cause, and this is my real debate right now with myself, is that there's a certain amount of this that's just entertaining. Okay, it's really entertaining to watch Jimmy Dore pick apart a rag like Politico, which isn't really that hard to do. And of course, we know Politico is going to be working day after day for the establishment. And anybody who, again, flies in at a different trajectory, they're going to be called out on it. Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard and people like Mike Gravel, Andrew Yang, they're out there and they're doing something different. Marianne Williamson, I'm not a big fan, but still, she's definitely got something different going on, and they're going to write her off as like a fringe person, a lunatic, and so forth. And then, and it's sad because if you had an honest media, they'd be talking ideas. They wouldn't be, touting statistics on who has the college degree. That doesn't really matter. Are these policies going to help average Americans? People voted for Donald Trump because they thought his policies were going to help them. Okay? They weren't concerned about where Donald Trump went to college or if he did go to college. What they wanted to know was, what he planned to do when he became the president and his ideas and policies that, again, people would be moved forward and not just left or right. So as much as I love Jimmy Dore, and I watch this faithfully. I don't always watch it live nowadays, but I do watch a lot of the clips they upload. And I see this across the spectrum with both left and right commentators who are in the game, I think, of being like play-by-play announcers. In other words, stuff happens and they've got to do their play-by-play. Okay, well, Bernie's getting smeared here by Politico. And Elizabeth Warren, she's looking more presidential all the time, according to them. And this is wrong. And what are we doing about it? Well, we're spreading the word about it. But again, this is kind of a no-duh moment where, okay, so what? All right, Dave, then so what is better? What should we be doing? Well, most of the time, we should be focused on policy proposals. Bernie Sanders steps up to the microphone, talks about Medicare for all, talks about a living wage, talks about breaking up big tech, which is awesome, or breaking up banks, which again is awesome because we need oversight. We shouldn't be bailing out banks. We should be bailing out people. Bernie Sanders cares about predatory lending. That's a big issue that I believe even Ted Cruz and AOC were debating or trying to come together on. So there's a lot of ground that you can cover. And maybe it's not as sexy or glamorous as talking about, Kamala Harris trying to beat up on Joe Biden. But see, we have to get over our fixation with entertainment when our country really needs ideas and is being dismantled in front of us. It's being changed in front of us. It's where the people really don't vote their own economic interests. We continue to export war all over the world, and it's very expensive. And there are people in our midst who are suffering needlessly because of it. There's student loan debt out there that's ridiculous and needs to be eradicated. People should get a fresh start there. It was a con. College is a con game from the beginning. And see, these are the issues you need to talk about. I understand this particular format here and the way Jimmy Dore does it with his, comic wit and so forth. It makes for really good TV. And it's almost like red meat for people who want to get fired up about something. So I would still recommend watching it. I do. It's just that a number of commentators out there have to get on board with issues and ideas. What makes Tulsi Gabbard so appealing is when she's confronted, she'll say something like, I just filed legislation about this. And then she's got her example right here. And people are like, oh, well, she's a doer. She's not just a talker. And I think that's where we're at right now. So again, and there are other topics really that are looming. Like with all of this happening with Bernie, right? We should be talking about how the DNC is going to rig this again. And we should be looking for stories that would indicate what they're about to do again. And nobody's really addressing that. Everybody is kind of waiting and waiting. It's kind of like you're going to die eventually. So you're just going to keep eating all the cholesterol that you can and not exercising and so forth. And you're just thinking to yourself, it'll happen eventually. I'm not really worried about it. I'll talk about something else in the meantime. And I think we do that at our own peril. Our demise is imminent if we don't start to really look at issues and talk about issues. And look, the American people, a lot of them are educated on these issues by conservative talk radio for 12 hours a day. So what you need is an antidote for that. And if there's no antidote for that, then people just assume that there's no way to pay for Medicare for all. And there's no way to curb gun violence without taking away someone's guns. And see what I mean? So there are issues coming at us from all angles, and we more or less look for the entertainment wrinkle when we get our information. And Jimmy Dore is, like I said, he's he's very appealing on that level because he is red meat for those of us who know the establishment and the entire process from the voting booth to the Oval Office is rigged right now. It's completely rigged because even when the president gets there, they are surrounded by people who have these jobs in these deep state agencies, and they basically will lobby the president of the United States to do things that he didn't run on at all. Case in point would be Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. The fact that they are part of the Trump administration proves to me that either Trump didn't mean it, which that could be it, or the fact that there was a deal probably made. We'll support you, President Trump, those in the Never Trump movement, but you're taking Bolton and you're taking Pompeo. And if we want you to go to Iran, you'll go to Iran. So there it is. These are the big issues that need to be addressed. But we are really hung up on entertaining ourselves. And I get that, but time's running out, folks. We need to do something soon, and you can't keep repeating this cycle every 4 years. It's pretty much useless. All right, I'm done. Aloha. See you soon.